The case of ABULABAN. Social media has become such a big part of almost everyone's life, and there is a lot of image projecting that people have to do to keep the charade of the life in. And with so many platforms to keep, there is so much of projection waiting to be done. And the constant appreciation and validation that social media provides you will get you hooked on it. It is like a drug, and then you just have to keep projecting it. And that is where the lies and deceits take over, and people confuse it with truth. In the given video you see, the truck empty, and inside that truck is daughter of ABULABAN and ALIi, a couple that got famous on TikTok, and the project that they kept of the happy life, and how it all came to an end because an irrational, violent man was stern on projecting his happy image when he clearly was not one of those personalities that he created, and instead was a deceitful abuser. And this is something that would pull away yours and mine trust from humanity. ALIi was the TikTok influencer with the perfect wife and perfect life, so everybody thought. But away from the small screen of their TikTok things were sinister and deceiving. ALIi was the charming, caring husband on the screen. But away from that, he was a controlling, obsessive husband, violent on occasions. He used to make TikToks one morning, and the same afternoon, he would restrict her even getting out of the house. The things got worse with time, and the domestic violence grew worse, but people barely knew anything about it. He was the best caring husband to the world, so it was easier for him to hide behind the image that he had created. Not even the user could figure out the red flag in their relationship, but when it did occur to them, the viewers were not slow to point it out, and some comments on the post indicated that something was up. They would see signs of violent incursion, but even after no strong evidence were found and everybody dismissed everything, he would obstruct her any attempt to meet with people. Soon, the people saw that the image of perfect couple was definitely tarnishing with time, and people started seeing ALIi, and he was drifting and turning into an alcoholic. One morning after posting online and all drunk and heavy, he decided to do something irrational. He went to where his wife was living, all dirty and scary looking, almost like a zombie. He broke into where she was living and ransacked the place, and then installed a spyware in his daughter's phone to spy on his wife, and then went on to spy on his wife. One day, he decided to spy in on his daughter, trying to overhear, and while she was living differently, he overheard her talking and laughing with a guy. He was enraged by all of it. He was so enraged that he decided to rush to the place and confront them in the act. He was adding up scenarios in his head, like the one where she is in bed with another man, and then it all just boiled him up from the inside, and he straight away headed to the place. Enraged and in immense anger, he was out of his senses and willing to take down anything and anyone that comes between him and her. She was more like a property to him. As he entered the home, his senses were clouded with anger, and he shouted, "So this is what you are doing behind my back!" They were startled and scared, and even though they were just standing in the kitchen while the daughter was out in the backyard, "There's nothing going on over here," said the man who was with her. "I'm not talking to you," said ALIi. Anna was scared, and she wanted to just go with him. She was scared, and the man she was with said, "She don't want anything from you, man. Why don't you leave?" And that is when he was frustrated, and in anger said, "I am not talking to you, you lying bastard." And that is when in immense rage, he took out his gun and pointed at the man and shot him and killed him, and then pointed the gun at his wife and screamed at her while he shot her right in the head. She died too. Now, not knowing what to do, he panicked and took his daughter and left, and then all panicked called his mother and confessed about the killing. And as he was driving away, he soon saw the police chasing him. He was full of guilt and scared and ran away, leaving his daughter in the car. The police found the daughter in the car all by herself, and the husband ran. He tried pleading innocent in front of the judge. Now, why would an innocent person run, leaving his daughter all alone? Hey guys, Thanks so much for all this support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so.
Zachary Latham and his neighbors, the Durham family, did not get along. They lived opposite each other on the Thornhill Road in Vineland, New Jersey, a town of about 60,000 located 40 miles south of Philadelphia. After being forced to live with his grandparents at the age of 16, the Durhams initially found Zach to be a boisterous but polite young man. But as the years went by, neither he nor the Durhams had a good word to say about one another, and ultimately, the mutual animosity came to a head because of Zach's erratic style of driving. William Durham, along with his wife Catherine, had accused their 18-year-old neighbor of reckless driving on more than one occasion, and what was intended to be a friendly word with the young man quickly soured into a confrontation. When first approached by Mr. and Mrs. Durham, instead of responding amicably to their concerns, Zach responded by pulling out his cell phone. He then spitefully accused Mrs. Durham of being a Karen and swore at an enraged Mr. Durham when he objected to his behavior. Any chance of a peaceful coexistence went straight out of the window when Zach told the couple he'd be posting the video online. And post it he did, with the video going on to be viewed more than 3 million times by TikTok users around the world. What followed was an escalating feud that was later described as a powder keg. The confrontations between Zach and the Durham family were bad enough beforehand, but the publicity Zach had garnered meant that complete strangers were pouring gasoline on an already blazing fire. Hundreds of comments on the TikTok video of the argument between Zach and the Durhams urged him to cut her tires, egg her house, or the ominously vague, go after her. Apparently, a few weeks after the recorded confrontation, Mr. and Miss Durham were minding their own business and getting on with some housework when Zach pulled up next to them in his car. Hey Karen," he is reported to have cried out. "We went viral, Karen. I made you famous." The exposure had a terrible effect on the Durham's mental health and were even recognized around their New Jersey hometown, much to their chagrin. They sought out an injunction against the video, but were told by the police that they could not sign a complaint against Mr. Latham since the courts were closed because of the coronavirus pandemic. Then, on May 4th of 2020, Mr. and Mrs. Durham returned home from some grocery shopping to discover that Zach Latham had deliberately swerved his pickup truck at their son, who was out in the street riding his bicycle. Mr. Durham was furious. Humiliating him and his wife with online videos was one thing, but to threaten his son's safety was another thing entirely. He marched out of his house, got into his truck, and parked it right behind Zach's own vehicle, blocking him into his own driveway. And on that occasion, it was Zach's wife who was filming the exchange when he walked out of his home to confront Mr. Durham. Both were absolutely livid as they demanded to know what Zach was thinking when he nearly hit their boy. But Zach was in no mood to talk. He told the couple that they had better back up because they were not going to like what's coming out, referring to something he had inside his house. When Mr. Durham got a little too close to Zach, he threw a punch. It missed, but it was enough to have the Durhams' 2 teenage sons stepping in to try to defend their father. It was then that Zach grabbed a stun gun and knife from under the driver's seat of his truck, firing the taser at the 2 boys after swinging at them with the knife. Mr. Durham then grabbed Zach in a misguided attempt to disarm him, who was lithe and fast enough to shake the older man off before slashing his right arm with the knife. With Mr. Durham bleeding profusely from the knife wound, Zach attempted to retreat into his garage, but the red mist had descended on his older neighbor, with Mr. Durham following him into the garage, cursing up a storm and promising to kill him. A courtroom later heard that a brief but violent melee then ensued, one in which Durham was repeatedly shocked with a taser. Zach's young wife begged him to drop the knife, but despite her pleading, Zach plunged the tip of the knife into an area just below Mr. Durham's armpit, a stab wound which punctured his lung and caused it to fill with blood. The 51-year-old correctional officer died that night, with Zach being arrested at his grandparents' home just hours later. During his trial for murder, the prosecution was particularly interested in why Zach's wife had been so quick to pull out her phone to record the confrontation, and throughout hours of questioning and evidence examination, it was determined that Zach and his wife had frequently discussed the idea of recording another viral confrontation with the Durhams, one that would grow their already sizable TikTok following, and the one that could make them some money. In a phrase, the court established that Zach had manufactured the confrontation so he could become TikTok famous. If Latham was in fear for his or Sarah's safety, they both would have retreated inside, called police, and stayed there, the prosecuting attorney stated. They did not because their intent was to lure the Durhams there, attack them, and record it for TikTok. But Zachary's defense attorney painted a very different picture of the night's events, insisting that it was in fact his client that was the victim in the situation, given that the Durhams had ventured onto his property to instigate violence. A recording of his 911 call was played to the court, and this is what they heard. "Yeah, I need the cops out here. There's blood all over the place. I just got assaulted and jumped. I got beat up really bad and I have blood all over me. They came with trucks, came on my property with guns, and then when I fought them off, they drove away." It was a strong argument, but one that paled in comparison to the prosecution's own, which was ironically fueled by Zach's own actions. Since his arrest, Zach wasted no opportunity to grow his TikTok following by talking about the incident in broadcast to his thousands of followers. In the videos, he professes his innocence and insists that the killing was nothing but self-defense, arguing that he was merely a young man defending the home of his grandparents from armed intruders. But there was a distinctly darker side to the videos too, as Zach seemed content to whip up a frenzy of malcontent to direct at the Durhams and their friends. Zach's followers have been alleged to have harassed the Durhams directly, even going so far as to post their address in one video's comment section. Zach posted so frequently that, in the end, a superior court judge approved an order prohibiting him from making public remarks about the case, essentially silencing him before any trial can begin. This is most definitely something that's going to be used against Zach in his upcoming murder trial. The prosecution could well argue that his obsession with social media popularity pushed him to create more and more drama with a family that simply couldn't take his behavior any longer. Zach has documented his harassment of the Durhams. He filmed himself pushing a regularly suburban family to their limits, and when they finally snapped, he had someone ready to film that too. It seems that Zach is a young man with a very troubling upbringing, which included a juvenile criminal history and a penchant for violence. Whether or not you believe that Zach was just defending himself, or that he manufactured the confrontation, he has most certainly used his notoriety to foster a larger TikTok following, and that is something that is going to reflect very badly on him during his trial. Some people will do anything to be famous, but whether or not Zach killed a father of two over something as fickle as fame is something only a jury.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so.
I'm about to share with you the creepiest thing that has ever happened to me. When TikTok was just in its early stages, I was a user there. You wouldn't yet see the occasional lip-syncing or dancing, and sometimes you would see some things far more terrifying than that. It was a cold December 12th, back in 2017. I was in my room playing NASCAR Heat 2, when all of a sudden, I got a call from my best friend, Jax. I opened the call on Skype and was surprised to hear what he had to say. Usually when he calls me like this, it's emergencies. He told me about TikTok for the first time then quickly asked me if I wanted to prank some people for his YouTube channel. This was out of the blue, but I agreed to it. I downloaded the app and soon got a notification saying that Jax's username has friended you. I accepted it and instantly messaged him on there. However, there was something wrong. He then messaged me to send him my address. This wasn't normal considering he already knew it. We were close friends after all and often went to see each other. Despite how weird this was, I went ahead and reminded him. That's when I got a notification saying that a different username with the name Jax in it had friended me. I got a little annoyed thinking he made another account already. He then called me on Skype, and I answered. His voice suddenly had a more urgent tone to it. He said that someone had hacked his account, and I remember thinking, we haven't even had accounts for a day yet. How did that happen? I asked him how he knew he had been hacked, and he stated that the person who did this was probably the same person who was trying to hack his YouTube channel, something I had no idea about. I then asked him if he had made another account, and read the usernames to him, and he replied that no, which meant the account I gave the address to was not my friend. My stomach twisted into a knot. I hung up and grabbed my phone and locked my bedroom door. I reported the user on TikTok and began to wonder how much trouble I might be in, if any at all. Surely if this was just some hacker, he was only going to prank me. But about an hour later, when I was just beginning to calm down, it happened. There was a sudden banging on the door. It startled me at first, then I picked myself up to go answer it. The moment I had cracked open my door, there was a massive splintering, cracking sound, and then a slam. My heart stopped, and I stood frozen in my doorway. Because what that sounded like was the front door being bashed in. I shut the door and locked it, then hid behind my big beanbag, quickly dialing the cops. I was panicking, having trouble breathing right. Even the operator was trying to get me to calm down, reminding me that the police would be there shortly, but it didn't help. After a few moments, I could hear footsteps outside my bedroom door, and then someone tried to turn the knob. I stopped breathing altogether then, terrified that whoever it was would hear me if I even tried to breathe. That's when the worst happened. The laptop began to buzz with the sound of an incoming Skype call. It was my friend. I could see the screen from my hiding position. He must have been worried about me, but he didn't realize what was going on and had no idea that he just gave me away. That's when I heard fists beating against the wood of the door. This guy must have been huge, because I could hear the door being chipped away at, cracking and splintering under his weight and strength. But when I heard the squeak of brakes outside, I prayed that I was saved. The man must have heard it too, and stopped. A few moments later, I heard the sound of rapid footsteps leaving the house, through the back door, I think. Then there was the sound of two different pairs of footsteps coming in through the front. They scoured the house, then made it to my room, which was locked. I was too scared to get out of my position to open the door. They even called out that they were the police, but I think I was in shock. Eventually, they busted down the door, and they found me under my beanbag. They took me to the police car while one of them watched me, and the other searched the rest of the house. Whoever broke in was gone, and none of us had any leads on who he was or why he did this. I've talked to my friend about it, but he won't give me any answers or clues. But the police had a theory. Based on his online patterns, they believed him to be a part of a trafficking organization. Hearing this, I was horrified. If the cops did not arrive in time, I would have never been found.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all this support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so.
How far would you go to find a missing family member? Is there anything you wouldn't do, or anywhere you wouldn't go in order to recover a loved one? For many of us, the answer will be a resounding no. We'd do anything for the people close to us. And that's exactly how Sarah Turney felt regarding the disappearance of her older sister, Alyssa, in the year 2001. Over the years, Sarah tried almost every means at her disposal in her quest for answers. She started Facebook and Instagram accounts dedicated to spreading awareness of Alyssa's absence. She started a blog called Justice for Alyssa, which kept track of the ongoing investigations. She reached out to multiple media outlets, both regional and national, actually managing to bag an appearance on Dateline NBC. She started her own podcast, appeared as a guest on other people's, and even attended CrimeCon, the weekend-long event for true crime fans as well as those desperate for leads. She left no stone unturned in her search for justice, but unfortunately, she had no luck in the search for her missing sister. Then, in Sarah's desperation, she turned to TikTok. Sarah later said that she started a TikTok account because she wanted to reach a young audience that hadn't heard about Alyssa's case before. She made sure her video posts included as little of her own speculation and theory as possible, making sure to present only the facts to her new audience. However, she did make it clear that one particular line of inquiry had been almost completely neglected. Her father, Michael Turney, who adopted Alyssa after her mother had died, had never been considered a serious suspect. After announcing she created a TikTok page dedicated to spreading awareness about Alyssa, she also included a word or two about the people who'd had less than positive things to say about it. She made very clear that no matter what anyone said about TikTok or any other medium, if it helped her get closer to answers surrounding Alyssa's disappearance, it would all be worth it. It was all part of her doing the right thing and fighting for justice. To her astonishment, Sarah quickly gained over 1 million followers on the video app, with each new video post giving her more and more of an audience. In one particular video, Sarah gives a full and frank account of the day her older sister disappeared. At the time, both girls were living with their father, Michael, since their mother, Barbara, had died of cancer. It was her last day of junior year at Paradise Valley High School in Phoenix, Arizona. Sarah, who was 12 years old at the time, says she found her sister's usually neat, tidy bedroom looking like it had been struck by a bomb. It was a total mess. The only sign of Alyssa was her Nokia cell phone that was left on the dresser, along with a note saying she'd gone to California to try to make it on her own. In another video, she talked about why exactly she had such a strong hunch that her father was to blame. And needless to say, Michael Turney was much more of a dark personality than he liked to let on. Because 7 years after Alyssa first went missing, Phoenix Police Department made a rather worrying discovery at Michael's home whilst on a completely separate investigation. A stash of 26 homemade pipe bombs, 3 incendiary devices, and 2 silencers. After he had such volatile equipment confiscated, Michael allowed himself to be interviewed by ABC News. During the interview, he told journalists that he had been planning to take his own life in order to bring attention to Alyssa's case, but added that the bombs found in his home had actually been planted there by police officers attempting to frame him for his daughter's disappearance, which he denied having anything to do with. They have no proof whatsoever of anything other than rumors, innuendos, and lies. There's only 2 people that can confirm whether I did it, and one is me, and the other is Alyssa. Alyssa's not here, and I'm sitting here, and all I can say until hell freezes over, I didn't do a thing to my daughter. In March of 2010, Michael pleaded guilty to possession of the unregistered pipe bombs and was sentenced to 7 years in prison for owning the explosives and all the silencers. Since April of last year, Sarah has been uploading TikToks about her father's alleged role in Alyssa's disappearance. In one particular video that has accrued over 13 million views, she shared home VHS footage from March 29, 1997, 4 years before Alyssa went missing. In another TikTok, Sarah plays what she claims is a recorded conversation she had with her father a few months after he got out of prison in 2017. The meeting took place at a Starbucks and lasted for over an hour. I felt a lot of different emotions afterwards, Sarah says. I was sad that he still refused to give me any answers. I was hoping that putting those statements on TikTok would prompt the police to finally bring him to a grand jury for questioning. In February of 2019, the case was formally submitted to the county attorney's office requesting homicide charges to be made against Michael, but there was no telling if it would actually be taken seriously or not. It would take another 6 months for the attorney to make a decision. Until then, all anyone could do was wait. Then, to the shock of almost everyone involved in the case, Michael Turney was indicted on charges of murdering his own daughter. Maricopa County Attorney Alistair Adele did not elaborate on what exact evidence led to Mr. Turney's arrest, but did confirm that the indictment was issued by a grand jury. She also credited Sarah Turney and her TikToks with having helped solve the case. Sarah Turney, your perseverance and commitment to finding justice for your sister Alyssa is a testament to the love of a sister, and because of that love, Alyssa's light has never gone out, and she lives on in the stories and photos you've shared with the community, Adele said. This passion you have demonstrated to her during your journey is something that will keep Alyssa's memory alive forever. Sarah had said she will continue to make TikTok videos about Alyssa's case until her killer is brought to justice, and whether or not that killer is her own father remains to be seen. Every evening after work, she scans all of her social media accounts on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, plus her blog to see whether anyone has come forward with new information or tips. Then she sits down with the thousands of documents she's acquired that relate to Alyssa's case. I read through approximately 3,000 pages of case documents that were released to the public by the police and gone through a few hundred hours of home footage, video, and interviews that I've conducted with Alyssa's friends and family, she says. And no, I won't ever stop. Sarah and Alyssa's story is truly inspirational. A search for justice fueled by the love between two sisters. It's a reminder that those close to us will never stop fighting in our corner, even after we're long gone. But it's also a reminder that sometimes it's that those close to us can also be the ones that hurt us the most.